Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this one, we're going to be focusing on a strength build that does bleed as a secondary. It's mainly a strength build primarily because we're going to be investing most of our stats in one main stat with bleed as a secondary. This is a powerful one. Let's go over the details. First things first, though, there's an incredibly active Discord that you have to check out. There's over 250 people in it now. It kind of blew up over the past month, so be sure to join that. There's a whole bunch of people in there. It's a really good group of people. It's been a lot of fun having that Discord, so be sure to join that. Now, as far as this build goes, the main thing here is you're using strength as your main stat, and we're not even worrying about arcane at all, simply going for damage and bleed as a secondary with Seppuku. This was something G, who I'm going to mention at the end of this video, and there's a link, by the way, of him shredding Malenia with this build in the description below, came up with. It's an awesome setup. He had really good stats for this. And after I saw that awesome clip, I was like, at this point, we might as well try and see if we can turn this into a build. And I really like utilizing the whole strength aspect with investing really nothing in arcane. And then I'm going to talk about the different affinities and things you can use with this to make really good use out of the Gargoyle Twinblades, which, by the way, is a little bit of a pain to get. You do have to fight the duo Gargoyle boss fight, and I believe it's one per playthrough, and that's it as far as the drop goes. But you can use forums. Again, the Discord might be able to help you get a second one, and you'll be able to shred some of the bosses in the game. We're on New Game Plus 7, Journey 16 at this point. We're able to do a lot of damage with these. And then bosses, you can see here, I'm not the best player. As I mentioned, as far as Elden Ring goes, I'm probably your average Elden Ring player. I mean, honestly, I don't have a ton or ridiculous level of skill when it comes to the game. I just play for fun. I have fun, make builds, put up cool videos and clips, and kind of just enjoy doing this. And this is the best part of this for me, is being able to have fun with this and then share it and kind of create a community that talks about Elden Ring and has fun with Elden Ring. That's my main thing. So you will notice with some bosses that I'm just like a lot of you, and even though a lot of them now don't take me, and again, this is on max scaling, don't take me more than a couple of tries, but that's mostly because I have a lot of the movesets memorized and stuff now, and obviously I still make mistakes and whatnot. But the reason I'm stating that is just for the fact that the most common comment I've gotten recently, believe it or not, is actually how to make Elden Ring easier. So before we continue with the rest of this build, I just wanted to go on to say that I'm going to come up with a list soon for that as well too, and I'm also going to try to pick what I believe is the most fun build as well that I've ever done, because I've picked a few, but I've never really narrowed it down to one, so that should be really fun too. Alright, let's get back to the Gargoyle Twinblades, and they do a lot of damage with strength and with minimal arcane investment. I've also got a new test for you as well, because I've used them in my videos lately. If you're having difficulty and you want to learn the jump attacks and you want to time stuff properly, these two dragons that respawn consistently in Caelid are perfect test dummies to use something like this build on, because I'm on Xbox, which mainly for me is A and L1, but it does take a second to learn the jump attacks because we're consistently using that L1, and we're going to want to hit everything with 6 hits potentially on the twin blades and 4 if you're using curved swords. You want every hit to connect to build up as much damage, successive attack hits, and since we're using Seppuku, we get a little bit of bleed build up as well. This isn't going to be as ridiculous as some of the crazy bleed builds where you're heavily invested arcane, and obviously if you're extremely high level, you can go high strength and arcane. For this though, I went with strength, and I wanted to show here, if you put fire affinities on this, you can literally shred all of the tree avatars with ease because they're all weak to fire. You can easily shred them. Just throw fire affinity, which scales directly with strength, and you'll get massive damage and crush any of the tree avatars in the game in a matter of seconds. For mobs, by the way, this actually excels. The twin blades are really good against mobs. There's something where so many hits connect in general that you're able to wipe out mobs very easily with these, given the fact that you have 6 hits for each jump attack. So you're not going to have a very hard time with mobs as far as the twin blades go, especially if you go for that strength affinity where you're just going to be able to get massive damage, hit as many times as you possibly can, and then obviously we have secondary bleed damage, so these are fantastic for just mobs in general, wiping them out with relative ease. It's not something you're going to have to worry about or change up for mobs. And keep in mind while you're using these, this is something if you're heavily invested in strength, where you have another variety of builds where if you want to use strength builds in general, you can change up for different bosses, but generally speaking, you're not going to have to change your build for mobs. These absolutely shred mobs with ease relatively. Don't mind me getting beat up here, but in general, they do a lot of damage to mobs. And before we go over stats, equipment, everything that you'll need to know for this build and how to get massive damage out of the Gargoyle Twinblades, I want to show off the Fire Giant fight on New Game Plus 7 where he has 64,000 HP. So as we mentioned the Fire Giant here, the Fire Giant's a really interesting boss for me because now he's probably one of the easiest bosses for me. I rarely ever get stuck on him. I've even beat him with Bear's Bouquet, and it wasn't fun at all, but it only took a handful of tries. The thing about the fire giant that keep in mind, the main thing to think about when you're in this fight or if you're struggling with it is the fact that he's really slow and gives you large windows to do massive damage to him. Take advantage of his weak ankle point in the first phase of the fight. You'll be able to shred his HP really quickly. In the second phase, he's much less mobile. And you'll do fine. I know this is a boss that a lot of people get stuck on. A lot of people ask for help in regards to the fire giant, especially the first time through. The first time I played against the fire giant, you want to know how long it took me? It took me around 2 hours to beat him. It was a tough fight. Almost rage quit a couple of times. But shortly after that, a couple of New Game Plus cycles later, I realized how easy he is and how much of a giant pushover he can be if you memorize his attacks, learn that he has very, very slow attacks in general, and they're all highly punishable. And for the second phase of the fight here, I just wanted to say real quick, go for his hands immediately. Always go for them. It's very rare that the fire is directly under his hands, so it's basically a safe point really to just go in there, and that's another weak point where you can get massive damage, and then of course you can finish off the rest of the fight any way you want. If you're able to hit him enough, especially if you have something with bleed on it, it'll still build up and damage him, and you're still able to get some damage on his non-weak points, and it is easier to stand directly behind him than it is in front of him, where he can use the hand obviously to smash you, and he can use his fire moves. A lot of the stuff that he does in general in front of him are a lot more dangerous than going behind him. He will roll more when you go behind him, but even if you're doing the jump attacks, that's probably your best bet, either directly under him or behind him at a range of him being able to smash you with his hands and do his most dangerous fire attacks. I know you're thinking I went off with a little bit of a tutorial there, but these are jump attacks after all, so let's get into equipment. For equipment, we have 2 Gargoyle Twinblades in blood. Any seal will do. The White Mask and Raptor's Black Feathers, Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, Lord of Blood's Exultation, Millicent's Prosthesis, Claw Talisman. Then we have the Thorny tier, and I'm using the Faith tier to get to 25 for buffs as well. So for stats on this one, all strength. We went in heavily invested in strength. We have 89 strength. I think I have 11 arcane for whatever my starting character was. I don't think I can change that. But yeah, all invested in strength for the damage with bleed as a secondary. And that's going to be your main stat investment. Everything else is really up to you. You can even just go for 80 strength and put that 9 and maybe 1 other point back in to get to 60 vigor, so that you can change it up if you want something where you have a little bit more HP too, to make it easier for yourself as far as that goes. You'll still get massive damage with 80 strength. Let's get into buffs. First, we're drinking our tier, which has the Thorny tier and then obviously the Faith tier in it, so we can do the buffs. Then we're using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. Then you can fill up your FP again if you want. You don't really need to though, because we're going to mainly be doing jump attacks. And then for me, I'm on Xbox, so I'm using Y and L1 and then Y and R1 back, so that we can use Seppuku on both Gargoyle Twinblades for massive damage and a little bit of bleed too as well on this build. By the way, on our Discord, which has been literally booming lately, I can't stress that enough. Like, seriously, it's been absolutely crazy. It's been amazing to have this community. G has won the challenge for the week. We have a weekly challenge, so congrats to G. If you're not on the Discord, definitely be sure to join that Discord. And if you love overpowered PvE builds, just awesome content in general, be sure to check out everything on the channel. My goal eventually is to have an entire library of builds, which is something we're building up, and it's going to be absolutely just a blast. It's going to be so much fun doing that. I cannot wait. So be sure to sub. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will catch you guys there.